This will not be simple. The review group recommended that our current approach be replaced by one in which the providers or a third party retain the bulk records, with government accessing information as needed. Both of these options pose difficult problems. Relying solely on the records of multiple providers, for example, could require companies to alter their procedures in ways that raise new privacy concerns.
All right, yeah, I really, as I indicated, I couldn't believe what I was watching. Welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. Joining us now is Colonel Allen West, former congressman from the great state of Florida. And Colonel, welcome, sir.
Thanks so much, and like I said, Happy New Year to you.
And Fox News contributor, I should add as well, happy belated New Year to you. And I think this is it. We draw the line after today. No more Happy New Years.
Okay, we're far enough into it
Yeah,
now.
I think so. But you know what? Look, I'm watching the President of the United States say, we're not going to spy on foreign leaders anymore if they're our friends. We're not going to do this. Here's how we're going to do this. Here's who's going to hold the information. We got to figure out if they can hold the information. I mean, why don't you just give Russia and China and Al-Qaeda and all these countries and terrorist groups, send them a blueprint when you're finished with this, because it's ridiculous.
Yeah, basically this was the, if you like your privacy, you can keep it period speech. And so it was all over the place. It was very, convoluted. Whenever the president says, this is not easy, this is hard or whatever, he's going to give you a long, drawn-out, professorial type of speech. But in the end, we're still doing it. That's the bottom line. And, he has punted over to Congress because he does not want to be the guy to be held with the decision to say, okay, where we're going to put it. But, we don't need to collect metadata on the American citizenry. We know who the enemy is, target the enemy, and get their records, get their conversations, get their emails. But, Grandma who is calling and sharing her, hot apple pie recipe does not need to be listened into by any surveillance agency.
Well, like you said, it was all over the place, and no matter what they decide, I just don't think that while we're in this process, this was a speech. This was a Seinfeld speech. It was a speech about nothing. Like you said, he punted, and again, I just have a problem with telling our enemies, everything we're going to do, everything we're considering, who's going to have the information, what kind of information we're going to have, who we're going to spy on. I mean, to me, the whole thing is just insane.
Yeah, but that's what he believes is called transparency. And furthermore, it really does eliminate him from any type of blame, any type of responsibility, because he can say, I told you all what we would try to do, and that was it. And I don't know where further else to take it. It's just incompetence once again, and it was a very incoherent speech. I think it was, 47 minutes?
Yeah, it didn't stop. It didn't stop. We're talking to Allen West here on the Steve Malzberg Show. I want you to hear, there was an administrator from the Centers for Medicare and Medical Services at a House hearing who admitted, we keep hearing 2.2 million people signed up for whatever, Obamacare, and I keep asking the question, well, how many sent in their checks? I want you to listen. Here's cut 30. Listen to cut 30.
That you pay your premium in order to get the tax credit.
What department would have this data?
It's going to come to my office, to my agency.
Who would be the individual that would be in charge of that
That's
operation?
also Sharon Arnold.
How many? So we don't know at this point how many people have actually paid for coverage.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean,
it's insane. You're not signed up unless you send in a check, and they don't know how many sent in a check, but yet they tell us how many signed up. It is the Three Stooges.
It is. It's the classic, Charlie Foxtrot, as we used to say in the military. But this is the incomprehensible manner in which liberal progressives believe that big government is supposed to operate. This is the back door that everyone is talking about. So now, if you're an American out there that all of a sudden has to go to the hospital and see a doctor, and you're wondering, am I really signed up for, what is going on? What is my status? But it's not just that, Steve. The fact that they keep touting all of these millions of people that have signed up for Medicaid. Well, Real Clear Politics and also Glenn Kessler over the Washington Post have found out that they were counting people that were re-enrolling in Medicaid.
Yeah, we just spoke to Glenn earlier in the show. Yeah, crazy stuff. Crazy. Another lie. Another lie.
Another lie. And so, really, when are the American people going to stand up and say we've had it with a presidency that is predicated upon lies?
Well, when is the Republican leadership going to stand up and say that?
You and I will be old guys eating tapioca at some point in the retirement home if we're waiting on that, okay?
Well, I tell you, if I'm going to a retirement home and eating tapioca, I'm coming down to you in West Palm. I'm not staying up here in the cold.
No, you shouldn't, because it'll be like ice frozen tapioca.
Right, we don't want that. All right,
no, you don't want that.
Now let me move on here, and let's talk about the Senate report on Benghazi, and of course,
another lie.
Of course, another lie. And Hillary is implicated. The networks, and I'm talking about this all day. The networks don't mention Hillary. They say State Department. They never mention her name. It's all orchestrated. Listen to Lindsey Graham and Charles Krauthammer here. Cut 31. This is cut 31.
He said not one person interviewed by the FBI in Germany ever said there was a protest. All of them said it was a terrorist attack. So how could the FBI have interviews from every person on the ground in Benghazi who worked for the State Department saying there was no protest, it was a terrorist attack, and that not get into the system? Did the FBI just sit on those interviews? Who did they give those interviews to? How could the President of the United States, after the interviews were taken, go before the American people time and time again for weeks and tell a story about a protest that never occurred?
Well, actually, Charles Krauthammer then commented on that. But, I mean, he's absolutely right. He also talked, as did John McCain, about holding Hillary accountable. When and if, I'm asking you, will she ever be held accountable? And you know, even if she runs for president, the media is not going to question her.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And first of all, David Kirkpatrick should be fired from the New York Times for that dribble that he
Oh, my gosh. He said it was the video.
Yeah, but this is why, you know, John Boehner and Leader Cantor, we need to have a select committee. You know, 181 Republicans have signed on to House Resolution 36, asking for the select committee with subpoena powers on Benghazi. That's the only way you're going to get to the truth. That's the only way you're going to get Hillary Clinton back to testify, because they knew what this was. And who concocted this lie about a video? Why was the ambassador there in the first place on 9/11 in the middle of, you know, enemy terrorist territory? And why was he denied the security request that he asked for? So you're right. We need Republican leadership that's going to stand up, or else they're going to be deemed as complicit in this as well.
All right. Let me ask you a question here. You made. You referred to, I believe, Barack Obama and Eric Holder as racist.
Yeah,
now go ahead. Explain. Tell me what prompted that.
Well, let's just look at everything in the aggregate. You know, he gets rid of the bust of Winston Churchill. During the Professor Gates issue up in Boston, he says that the police there in Cambridge acted stupidly. Let's think about, you know, all of the occurrences of this knockout game that was going on. You never heard a word about it, but yet finally when one white individual strikes a black individual, all of a sudden the Department of Justice charges him with a civil rights violation. You know that the president got engaged with the Trayvon Martin case. But yet, you know, if you were to go up and ask President Obama or Eric Holder, who is Delbert Belton, and they could not tell you. Well, that's the
white guy who came from the other out of country to play baseball, correct?
No. That's a different guy. I mean, that's the guy from Australia.
Oh, right.
The
Yeah.
World War II Okinawa.
Right, who got beaten up in the parking lot in his car.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you didn't hear a peep about it.
Yep.
And so now you have the Department of Justice, Eric Holder, and the Department of Education coming together to say that, you know, we're going to start using civil rights investigations against schools and their disciplinary procedures and practices because we believe it's discriminatory.
Right. Don't call the cops for black kids who commit crimes. Bring them into the principal's office. That's what Eric Holder's saying.
Yeah, and so this is crazy. So really, when you think about the policies that they are enacting, and not to mention this guy who defended the Black Panther, who was the cop killer.
Ahmad Jamal, yeah, he's now the civil rights nominee for the Civil Rights Department of the Justice Department.
And so here you go. And then remember the new Black Panther case with the voter intimidation? Imagine if that was a bunch of Klansmen standing out.
Imagine if it was a bunch of Tea Partiers.
You got it. And so When you just look at thing upon thing, all of the policies, practices between President Obama and his henchman, Eric Holder, that's the only thing you can deduce. And again, I'm sorry, but I'm going to say what needs to be said.
All right, I want you to listen to Cut 40 here. This is Julian Castro. He was on MSNBC with Alex Wagner on Wednesday talking about the status of illegal immigrants in this country. And, I just found out about this today through our friends at Mediaite because I hadn't heard this. But, my God, if it was a white person who said something a little different, listen to Cut 40.
We're pushing for full-fledged citizenship, a path to citizenship. And as you know, Alex, the path to citizenship in these bills has been, quite frankly, a very difficult and tough one, not easy at all. And so that's what we're sticking to on our side.
Yeah, I'll say, that it would be unprecedented in American history for us to create a permanent class of folks who are not citizens outside of slavery, and we certainly learned our lesson from that. I'm not comparing the two in any other sense except to say that we want in the United States for folks to be fully invested in our nation.
All right, he says he's not comparing them, but of course he did compare them.
Of course he did. I mean, bringing up the issue of slavery, bringing up, blacks who were brought here for servitude, okay? What we're talking about are a group of individuals, and it's not just Hispanics. There are many different individuals who are violating the rule of law. They're violating the sovereignty of the United States of America, and we don't owe them anything. I'm sorry, that's just the truth. We don't owe them a path to citizenship for violating our laws, and it's clearly stated in the Constitution as far as protecting, our sovereign borders. And what part of this do they not get? But Julian Castro, if I believe I'm right, this is one of the Castro brothers down in San Antonio.
Yeah, they were both on the screen together. They're twins, I believe, and the other brother's a congressman, and he's the San Antonio mayor who was the keynote at the Democratic convention. Now, if he, what he just said, Sarah Palin mentioned slavery when it comes to an analogy, and you mention it, and you're both torn apart in the media.
Well, you're absolutely right. And think about at Bill de Blasio's inauguration, you had the person that said that New York City was like a plantation. There is an incredible duplicity and hypocrisy there for the left. They think that they can say anything and not be, challenged on it. But then, of course, if you as a conservative, someone on the center-right say it, then they go all apoplectic. And we have to continue to call them out on this. But the thing about Castro, just know that they're being set up to be the first Hispanic president of the United States of America, because it wasn't too long ago that we had some young African-American state senator that was giving a keynote speech at the Democrat convention.
Colonel Alan West, former congressman, Florida, thank you, sir.
Always a pleasure, Steve.
My pleasure.
Stay warm.
You too. I'll try. Alan West here, folks, on the Steve Malzberg Show. When we come back, we'll be joined by Noel Shepard. Malzberg's Media Madness is back on the Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV and radio.
The Steve Malzberg